Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane.
No, Jeremy, that's a blimp.
Oh, yeah. Just your everyday average blimp that we see daily.
Yeah, and also just like you saw in the 1952 episode of The Adventures of Superman.
That's right. It aired on September 19th, if I remember correctly. The same day Charlie Chaplin was denied entry into the United States just for promoting an ideology the man didn't agree with.
No, Jeremy. See, this is not a thinly veiled pro-communism podcast.
Okay.
This is Supes On podcast.
All right.
Let's give it to Jon and Jeremy.
All right. All right, and welcome. As you just heard, I'm Jeremy Bruner.
I'm John McBride.
And today we're watching The Adventures of Superman, Episode 1. We are going to start you off with a drinking game, so if you haven't watched it yet, you have something to help you better enjoy the episode. John, what game do you have for us today?
My drinking game for this particular episode, to make this episode a little bit more bearable, is you can drink whatever you want. I decided my drinking game is whenever Ma and or Pa can't talk in a really southern drawl, they just say things like, "Get over there yonder, old Clark."
That's a good one. Mine today also has to deal with Ma and Pa Kent. It's every time they are called by their names in this, which I won't spoil.
Yeah.
But where you would expect to hear Jonathan or Martha, you instead hear something else.
Yeah, that's right.
You will take a drink.
That one caught me off guard, for sure.
So there you go. So go off, drink, come back. Re-download, re-rate us 5 stars, do all that fun stuff, and then we'll get into it.
You don't have to be sober for any of this.
No.
That's the beauty of Supes On.
Exactly. Drunkenness encouraged.
Drunkenness encouraged. In fact, this is just John McBride speaking. I hope you drink irresponsibly. So, this episode first premiered September 19th, 1952.
All right.
So this is going to be the one your parents. This is the episode of Supes On your parents love.
Oh, that's before my parents.
That's your
born.
Grandparents will love this episode. And if you are part of what I would imagine our demo, I haven't checked stats or anything. I haven't checked actual
We're
facts.
very popular with women over 60.
Ah, nice.
And that is it. That's exclusively our audience.
Well, if you're part of the younger demographic and you decide to watch this, you probably won't. You're probably bored shitless.
I disagree. I enjoyed it a lot.
I gotta tell you, if maybe it's just me, anything black and white, I'm like, I want to be put to sleep. Not to say that this is like a bad episode of television programming, but it's also like, I'll tell you what my problem with it was. Nothing really wrong happened here in this episode.
No.
In this show. It's your run-of-the-mill Superman origin story.
So let's start off. Let's talk about the very beginning where we're on Krypton. I will say there was one thing at the very beginning they said about Krypton that I thought was hilarious. They called Krypton a star.
I didn't catch that at all.
They said, up in the Krypton, burning as bright as a star. And I'm like,
burning as bright as a star.
That's true. They didn't call it a star, but it's burning as bright. Krypton is fucked already. It doesn't matter what's happening. If it's burning like a star, Krypton was already fucked. But I do have to say, I loved Krypton on this. I liked the fact that it was very reminiscent of almost like global warming today.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, we feel something might be going on. We're going to have some scientists go study it. Oh, you're saying something's happening? We're disregarding what you're saying.
Right. And yet again, it's just Jor-el.
Yeah.
The voice of reason for an entire planet of advanced people.
Except, I will say there was one big difference this time. Jor-el did not come off as a brilliant scientist to me.
Really? He was just...
He came off as a horrible scientist. For a few reasons.
Well, he didn't prepare.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like, he specifically states to Laura in this, like, I should have started working on that other rocket months ago. Meaning he felt this was something that's been going on for months. Like, he's obviously sort of come to his theory. He doesn't present his theory until the day the planet explodes. Even if the council had been like, holy shit, you're right, Jor-el, we need to get to work on this, it was too late because of his mistake. As much as we want to blame the Council of Krypton or whatever, in this particular version of events, they were inconsequential. Jor-el was the one that fucked up.
Jor-El did kind of fuck up. Jor-El is like, he just procrastinates. I don't understand how he gets anything done. Only when the world is literally ending, he's like, oh shit, that rocket I was supposed to build.
Yeah. And the thing is, and I do like how in every version just about that we've seen so far, or read or watched, Jor-El, like, does not think to save his son. It's always,
right.
You need to be the one to survive, Laura. And she's like, what? No, our son. And he's like, oh, fine, I guess. Go get him.
That leads me to believe that there is just some pre-existing relationship issues between Jor-El and Laura. Maybe, and of course there are different versions where Clark is like a test tube baby or some shit. But maybe Jor-El is not the father.
I don't know. I think he's the father. I think it's just he doesn't care about his kid. He's like, the kid, what does the kid know? The kid doesn't know shit.
Well, I think that may be, when I was watching this, I'm like, I've seen it so many times before, but I do like the ongoing or recurring message or theme is like a lot of arrogance and hubris, maybe.
Yeah.
It's kind of like people now, like you said, like climate change is happening. People are like, fuck off, Jor-El, you're retarded.
Right.
And like, well, okay, 3 days from when the world's ending, I'll tell you about this again.
Well, the thing is, though, no, but if that was the case, then yeah, but that wasn't even the case here. Here it was like, the world's going to end, possibly in months, possibly this afternoon. I waited too long to tell you.
My theory about this is that Kryptonians are such an advanced species, and they know it. They're aware of how advanced they are.
Yeah.
So they really are kind of arrogant.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And they kind of just like, whatever, we're Kryptonians. We're like the shit in the entire universe.
So unlike in a lot of things you might be familiar with now in modern days, where they're just like a race of people, in most of this early stuff that we're watching, everyone on Krypton had Superman's powers. Like, he doesn't have them because of the yellow sun in a lot of these. He has them because the Kryptonians were so advanced. So it's basically a world of Supermen.
Yeah.
And so that's why they were just arrogant. They didn't think anything could fuck with them.
Except the planet itself.
Except for the planet itself being sucked into the sun.
There was one thing that immediately when this thing first started, when the episode first started when I was watching it, I watched the iTunes version. I don't know if that matters at all. It doesn't. But
Greatest 5 stars on
iTunes. That's why it matters. All right. I watched. It's like, this is the very first episode. This is the pilot.
Yeah.
And the announcer guy goes, "And now another episode." Of
yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, if I was a kid back then, or if I was watching this, I would be like, "Oh man, I missed one."
Like, holy shit! Like, what could have happened before? That's just more Jor-El napping,
Jor-El procrastinating. Jor-El like, I ought to tell the council about that planet. Now I'll get to it next week.
He's like, he just writes down world ending. Tomorrow.
World ending. Tell council ?
Question mark. Saved son ? Question marks.
I do have to say, this episode had with that. So when he said, like, Laura, you go, you can fit in there with him, and she refuses to go because she would be lost in a world without her man. There was a lot of very anti-feminist stuff in this. And now this might surprise y'all, but neither of us are women, so we're not at all qualified to talk about feminist issues.
Yeah, this is not a feminist issue podcast.
But Laura just was going to be lost without her man. She couldn't dare dream going and living with her son. So obviously neither of them really cared about their son.
No one wanted to take care of poor Clark.
they just were like, let's send him away.
Yeah, let's send his ass away. When you watch this, just be aware it's 1952.
Yeah.
When this shit is on.
And I did like on this, like, so they go through and they're doing the different stuff. So like Clark and this just grew up watching World War II and all that happened. Which is sort of interesting because in a lot of the other stuff he always fought in World War II, or he was born way after.
Yeah,
World War II.
That's right.
This is sort of that weird in between.
Interesting take on Superman. He's probably like he's a baby boomer.
Yeah.
So when he gets to Monpog Kent, who are not named Jonathan and Martha,
as hinted at earlier, they are Ethan and Sarah.
I think I want to say it's Eben.
Eben, okay.
Because I've read Eben before.
Okay, so Eben and Sarah
Kent.
Yes.
And it's one of those things where it's like a lot of like the classic mythology of Superman comes from a lot of the live action stuff. This is the kind of thing they just kind of said, screw it, we don't need an Eben running around the DC universe.
No, I did like that most of the stuff that we've experienced so far though has had, for these early origin stuff, has had like Clark, like passing motors finding him and just giving him to an orphanage.
Yeah.
It was nice to see an earlier Superman story where they're actually raising him as opposed to just dumping him at the orphanage.
Yeah, and this is, I thought, it wasn't a good Jonathan and Martha, but it's a good Sarah and Eben.
Yeah, it's great. The best Sarah and Eben I've seen.
Yeah, the best live-action adaptation of a Sarah and Eben and these things. But I thought they were nice parents for Clark.
Yeah.
I could believe that Clark would be a nice young man.
I do feel that Clark would be a lot more country being raised with them. They were very country.
Like, believable.
Yeah.
Very believable, like, country bumpkins.
Yeah, it was like being raised by the Beverly Hillbillies.
And, a lot of the times, like, I've never really thought that the Kents... I mean, there's always recurring stories, especially in Smallville, where they're like, we're struggling because the Luthers are screwing us over.
Yeah.
I never really thought of it because they always seemed fine.
Yeah.
As far as money goes. This is like the first time I actually thought, damn, Clark might have been like super poor growing up.
Yeah.
Like, I never, because they show like Clark wanted for nothing.
Right.
Most of the time. This is like the time I'm like, holy shit, like Clark probably
It probably
rough it.
It probably helps them communicate or understand like the
Like the common
society.
man.
Yeah.
Except when he moves to Metropolis and leaves Suicide Slums the fuck alone.
Yes. I will say, so one of my favorite things in this, which I love because it was so different than almost every other adaptation of Superman there is when Clark was 12 and there's a scene where Sarah is telling Clark about where he came from. Yeah. And unlike every other version, unlike Smallville, unlike Lois, I don't know, every other freaking adaptation, it's definitely in was it Man of Steel, Superman Returns, all these. Whenever he finds out what happened, he always gets super pissed at his parents for not telling them.
Yeah,
and acts really moody and runs away. And this one, all we have is a narrator saying, "And Clark understood."
I love it,
and I love that. I was just like, finally, we have Clark not being a douchebag for finding out what his true origin and feeling betrayed. It's like. He just accepts it. Like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah, I like that take because Clark's like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes more sense. Yeah, of course.
Right.
Of course, I can see through rocks because I'm an alien.
Exactly. That I just like the fact that it was, hey, all right, that's cool. How it is. I understand.
He's like, cool. I'm an alien. When's dinner?
Yeah.
So Clark grows up. They
25 the next time we see him.
They kind of gloss over the whole why he wants to be a reporter.
No, they don't.
Do they not?
No, they specifically state it. In fact, unlike most of the other things, he says that he wants to use his powers for good and that he wants to work at a major metropolitan paper so he can know where he's needed most. They specifically said that.
This was me watching this and thinking this is a black and white movie. I want to fall asleep.
They specifically said it. That's what I'm saying. This is one of the best things. You just fucked up.
Oh man, I apologize.
Everything we said we wanted in a Superman origin story, this had
that. That is true. And when he goes to the Daily Planet, like he's waiting around for Perry White. I like this.
Apparently
Perry White.
For almost 3 hours.
Yeah,
because they said he got there at 3 and it was almost 6.
I like this Perry White. He wasn't too J. Jonah Jameson.
No,
but
he was really good.
I like this. Is actually one of the better Perry Whites.
And really, this Perry White, if anything, J. Jonah Jameson's based off this Perry White.
JJJ is a ripoff of this Perry White, I would say.
I would too.
Like, I don't know if he considers Superman a menace just yet. I know he knows Superman sells papers.
Yeah, I don't think he will ever consider I don't think in this show they ever consider Superman a menace, but
they kind of leave that to Lex Luthor or whoever.
Yeah, just that sort of angry and the other parts.
Right.
But yeah.
That reminds me, this one of the comic things I read recently is Superman. He's referred to as like a strange visitor from another world. He points out, I grew up here since I was a baby. I'm not a visitor.
Yeah,
like I live here.
That is true.
But I did like this pair, and he was waiting around. And when Clark gets called to action, like the fucking. Whatever the fuck it was in danger.
It was a worker was stranded from a blimp.
That's right. Yeah, the worker. And so like Clark decides this is a job for Superman.
Yeah.
So he kind of sneakily goes into like the closet or something.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that makes sense. He doesn't want to be seen, but the receptionist is watching him. No,
it was around the corner. It specifically shows him walking down the little hall.
Oh, see, to me, it looked like the receptionist was not only like creepily staring at him, but swooning as he's just like sneaking into the closet.
No, it was a different hallway. And it was, I did like how, so the first time J. Jonah Jameson, Perry White, refused to see Clark. And so Clark goes into the storeroom and he walks along the outer wall into the office.
Yeah.
And like he tells Perry he did that, and Perry just doesn't believe him, and it never comes up again. It's just like, no, you came in normally. We just didn't notice.
I will not follow up with this.
Yeah, no follow up on that.
Like,
and then,
nope.
So he goes and he saves him, and I love this because like Perry wasn't going to give him a job.
Yeah.
And he not only was Superman, after he saved the guy, he immediately changes back into Clark Kent, gets him in a cab, and takes him to Daily Planet for an exclusive story. He earned his job.
Yeah, this was not, I mean, there was no question of whether or not Clark kind of like, there was no moral shakiness. Clark says, if I do this, will he give me a job? He's like, yes. Like, okay. He's not going to say, I'm going to do this because I have superpowers. I'm from the planet Krypton. But he's like, I'm going to do this. They agree on something. He does it. I do love when, and these were 1952 television special effects, but I love it when the guy falls, like it's George Reeves clearly handling a dummy.
A dummy. That was very true, yeah.
Like,
I did. So I also liked the fact, that Clark does this. Like, I feel like if this wasn't going to get him a job, he still would have gone and saved the guy.
Yeah.
Like, and we get that because he wants to use his powers for good.
Yeah.
And so, but he got to do the extra thing where he ends up getting, the job. But what I love is, so this was Lois on this, and I think that Lois is the most, this is the most un-Lois I've ever seen. I feel like out of the things I've seen, this is the most un-Lois-like character. So they're driving to get the big exclusive story. Go faster, Jimmy. The speed limit's 35.
Oh, yeah.
I can't get a ticket. You're right.
All right, Jimmy. You're right.
You're right. Don't step on it.
Don't want to get a ticket, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Follow the rules.
Well, this is rule follower Lois Lane.
And that is so weird because in the rest of the episode, Lois seems so outgoing.
Yeah.
She's being very, very Lois.
Yeah.
She's being very Lois up until like Jimmy's like, "Hey, hold on, hey."
It's because, and this is me once again going on about it's like because the man told her something. She's like, "Okay,
yeah, all right, Jimmy,
you're the man.
You're the man, Jimmy." Like, I guarantee you, Lois got paid more than Jimmy.
Yeah,
and this is 1952.
And Jimmy, did you notice that Jimmy wasn't a photographer?
He's like, did they even call him photojournalist? Because sometimes they call him.
Apparently, based off the episode descriptions of the other, he's actually a reporter, but just a cub reporter.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, Jimmy, he kind of goes through both.
Yeah, he does.
The years.
But it was just sort of interesting that Perry was like, Lois, take Jimmy and grab 2 photographers.
Yeah, it's like this is very weird seeing Jimmy, not the photographer.
Right.
Like
Jimmy was essentially just the driver.
He's the chauffeur.
He's the chauffeur.
He's the very lawful and obedient chauffeur.
Yes.
I was watching that and thinking, like, okay, maybe this is just to kind of explain how Clark got there faster, maybe. But they did it in such a weird, like, shut the fuck up Lois kind of way.
Yeah, it was. It was like...
In a deleted scene, Jimmy gives her the backhand. And that made me really think, is like, Lois has been a very dynamic, outgoing character.
Yeah.
In coming from like the 30s and 40s and shit, when they could have easily just made Lois like the damsel, which
she was a lot.
She does get herself in trouble, but it's because she's kind of risking her neck,
right, to get the story.
She doesn't just get captured. She's trying to get like the story, the scoop.
Exactly.
She won her Pulitzer before she's 30. After all,
exactly. I
think.
Sure.
Why not?
Maybe 4 Pulitzers.
Who knows? Who knows? Was it this one where I'm thinking of something else where both parents died?
So on this one, Eben had a heart attack.
That's right.
And this was another thing I did like on the next scene. It was Sarah Kent saying goodbye to Clark.
Yeah.
And he was moving to Metropolis. They did specifically point out that the reason his suit doesn't get hurt or anything is because it's made from the blanket.
Which I enjoyed that. I like that.
They, because everything either goes, he has a little aura that protects the suit, or it's the Kryptonian material. I like it when they specifically state one way or the other. I don't care which they use. I just like it when they state it.
I like that, and especially when they don't have to. They can say he's Superman, whatever. And it's funny that in this one, he's clearly flying, right?
Yeah.
Flight is, and I guess we can bleed into
they've
powers.
Had flight now. This was 52, so I think he first started really flying a whole, like officially, I think in 41. So he's been flying for several years now.
And this is right into powers used and efficiency of powers used.
I'm going to talk about one thing before we get into that.
What?
I want to talk about this bus scene. Is the fact that Clark leaves from Metropolis.
I thought
on a
about
bus,
that.
and I liked that.
I was thinking about that. They didn't. I don't remember them saying this explicitly, but I'm like, if I'm Clark, I want to blend in, so I'm going to take the bus.
Yeah.
And if somebody asks, "How'd you get here?" I took the bus, and he can leave like a paper trail that's believable.
Yeah.
He doesn't just fly into Perry White's
I
office.
also like because it was the opposite of what we've seen in multiple other origin stories.
Yeah.
Where we see him getting off the bus in Metropolis.
I mean, it was a nice scene.
And in
with
this,
Sarah.
we got to see him getting on the bus in Smallville for once.
Yeah, it was a nice like goodbye scene.
Yeah, it was. So, sorry, we can go into the powers used now.
So yeah, powers used, and of course flight was one of them.
Yes.
And what's funny about that, because they've been saying this for so long, even at this point, we're like, look up in the sky. He can leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Yeah.
I think they're still saying leap.
Yeah.
And he's clear. I mean, he can leap.
Yeah.
But he is flying around.
Yeah.
It's funny that they still go on with the leaping.
Leap. Yeah. They'll still do that occasionally, even to this day.
Really?
Yeah.
Faster than a locomotive.
They're
speeding bullet.
occasionally.
Like these are true statements.
Yes.
I guess so. So he also used X-ray vision. He mentioned it.
Yeah, I think the only actual power we see him use is flight.
We don't see him use super speed, but he gets to that one guy faster.
Yeah. We don't see him use super strength. We don't see it. We hear him mention that he has super strength, that he has super speed, that he has flight. Well, we see him with flight, and that he has X-ray vision, but we only see flight.
I mean, I guess he had to have been strong enough to carry that dummy.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just like an average guy. And like, I mean, that's not something that was like...
It's not super Kryptonian strength. So
that's like a normal guy.
Yeah, so it's really just flight.
Yeah, flight's the only one we see him use.
Yeah.
And he did use it efficiently.
He caught the guy. I like when he caught the guy. It's like, and I wouldn't be here if Superman didn't
catch. He's like, I know a man can't fly, but I'm telling you, it's what happened.
I'm telling you, it's what my peeper saw. I don't know what the hell he said, but he sounded like everybody sounded really Southern in this thing to me. Like Metropolis might actually be in Kansas,
or maybe it's just around the corner from us here in Texas. I mean, we're recording from a galaxy far away.
This is the Fortress of Solitude.
Sorry,
which is extra dimensional.
Okay,
if you will believe that.
I don't.
Yeah, well, you should.
But yeah, so really for powers used, I mean, we had flight, technically. Just flight.
Powers used, not powers mentioned.
Right.
We will have another half hour to talk about powers mentioned, but
yes.
Powers. We skipped over facts and stats, but that's fine. We'll get to that in a second. But just flight. And, for the early 50s, the flight looked believable enough.
Yeah.
You didn't see wires or anything like that. I didn't believe a man could fly, but
I did like the X-ray vision thing when he's mentioning. This is when he's 12. He's talking about how he saw a baseball through a rock.
Yeah.
And I just like the idea of like Clark being the hero on the playground that day. Like everyone's looking for this baseball and they can't find it. He found it. And everyone's like, "Yes, Clark, that's fantastic. Now we can continue our stickball game."
And it's another one where they mentioned when he was like a baby, he was still being strong. They said he got stronger as the years went by.
Yes.
So the more solar energy he absorbed, he got stronger.
Yeah. Well, or not. It has nothing to do with solar energy in this. It's just he's from the Kryptonians. So
that's right. The yellow sunlight means nothing.
Yeah. It was just so like when they said I think when he was 2 or 3 that he was as strong as a normal like an adult man.
Yeah. And you know what? Sarah and Eva are just so cool with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Ma and Pa can't throughout the years. They're just, like, so chill when it comes to this super alien boy.
And I did like the rocket, like, landing. It's on fire. And he's like, there's a baby inside. It's like, you're going to get burned. He's like, I got to do something. Like, it shows that Eben was brave. Like, he knows it doesn't matter if he's going to get burned. He has to save this baby from this shoddily made rocket that instantly falls apart.
This advanced Krypton. Well, it was Jor-el who built it.
Yeah, which we've already established isn't the best scientist.
Jor-el had Kryptonian duct tape holding that thing together.
And you know what? It actually makes sense that Jor-el is not the best scientist. Because Jor-el has a government-appointed position. Like, it's not like, like he's probably just buddies with the president.
I doubt Jor-el had to pass any type of Kryptonian college to get his job.
Yeah, it's not like they chose the best scientist out of everybody. It's like, nah, he's the government scientist.
I would love it if they did a Superman story where it reveals Jor-El's kind of a fuck up.
Yeah.
And Laura's just sort of just like ditzy, or she's just...
Well, she was very ditzy in this.
In this one especially, and like the radio thing where she's like blind or something.
Yeah. I'm going blind, so I'm going to describe everything you're seeing, Jor-El.
And I loved it at the very beginning of this episode where they said, and the white-bearded head of the council. I'm like, we can see his beard.
You know what? There was a blind kid at home who loved the fact that they described it. And you're belittling that, John.
Well, the blind kids are like the majority.
You heard it
of
here. John hates blind people.
Only the blind 6-year-old women who watch the show. That's...
All right.
Yeah. And well... I gotta say, not sorry. I'm not sorry.
Well, as an audio podcast, you might have blind listeners, and
That's
now you
true.
just completely segregate. You know what? You can continue to listen to the Jeremy Bruner Loves Blind People podcast.
Love is blind. What can I say? What can I say?
Right. So, did you find any interesting facts or stats about
I
this?
did, using my expert researching abilities, my super researching powers. I went to something called IMDb and read up about this.
All right.
Should we cite our sources, or does anybody give a shit?
No one cares. If you care, email us and let us know how much you want us to do it. It's supesonpodcast@gmail.com.
And the answer is always going to be google.com.
It'll always be Google.
In fact, the answer to anything from now on should just be google.com.
Or vague memory of something I read a while back.
Well, okay, the fact, the only one that really stands out for this, there's two. Sarah and Eben Kent found Clark on April 10th, 1927.
Okay.
So April 10th is what they consider his birthday.
Yes.
So there you go. That's that. Let's see. It's blah, blah, blah. The costumes worn in the Krypton sequences were actually reused, recycled from the 1940 serials.
So they were the same ones from the 40 serials.
Yeah,
so
it states here that they were cannibalized, but that is true. There's some consistency.
I like it.
And Jor-El's costume, apparently it's the same one of Buster Crabby, I don't know how to say that, wore in the serial Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe. So you have like just recycled things like from old Captain Marvel serials and shit like that.
Yeah. So for mine, my interesting fact was this is more... not about the making of this particular episode, just around the series in general. So I just thought this was sort of interesting. So when George Reeves died, they wanted to actually continue the show. One of the producers did.
Yeah.
His idea was that it was going to continue and be focused. They were going to change the name of the show to Jimmy Olsen, Superman's pal, and have him team up using stock footage of George Reeves and a stunt double shot from behind. And the other producer was horrified at this and was like, this is in such horrible taste. He died. We're not doing that.
Yeah, he died under like very suspicious.
Yeah. Which maybe one day we'll get around to. We might have a George Reeves death episode.
When they do, as we were discussing off mic, as they say, we would watch the movie Hollywoodland, but it's kind of boring.
It is kind of boring.
It's kind of boring.
We might just have, maybe we could have a Curse of Superman episode. If y'all want to hear about the Curse of Superman episode, let us know.
Like, with the whole Superman the movie cast, Margaret Kidder and all that shit.
Yeah, Christopher Reeves, everything.
Christopher Reeves, yeah, the Curse of Superman. Yeah. I like that.
So maybe we'll do
and you know what? And people can suggest what themes they want.
Yeah, for sure. You can tweet us at Supes Podcast, or go to our Facebook, or email us, or if you know us in person, you can punch us in the face and tell us what you want.
Oh, Jeremy, they could do that, or they could also just Google.com.
Google.com and look it up yourselves.
People ask you, how do I get anywhere? Google.com. How are you feeling today? Google.com. Answer to literally every question.
This episode sponsored by Bing.
By Bing. Yeah, if you test it, it's faster. Like, who cares? It's like it's 0.3 seconds faster. I'm like, what the fuck ever. You know?
No one cares.
I don't give a shit.
So now that we've discussed Google versus Bing, it's time for the Supes on and off.
Supes on and off. Was this a proper representation of the Superman as a character? Was it just a good story? Did it make Superman not boring?
Did it help out Superman, essentially?
Yeah, and I got to tell you, a lot of these I've been giving on to because I think, like, as far as like the general character goes, it helped. And this one will remain on because, I mean, it didn't really do anything. It did a lot to help Superman. Because I think
it introduced him to a whole new generation of kids.
A whole new generation. It just further cemented the legacy and what everybody knows. Like, every human alive pretty much knows the gist of Superman.
Yes.
And a lot of that has to do with shows like this.
Yes.
So it helped out a lot. Wasn't really my favorite thing to watch. I'll probably never watch it again. But I think as far as Superman being on, he was on like Donkey Kong.
I will also say it was Supes on, and I will actually go as far as to say, out of everything we've seen so far, this is my favorite origin story. I like this one better than the...
Well, like the radio's like, let's name him Clark. Fuck it.
Yeah, like, I like this one so much. Like, I felt this was everything an origin story for Superman should have. Obviously, it should have been Jonathan and Martha, just because I like that better, but other than that, everything was great. We have him choosing to be a reporter to try to help people. Him always wanting to use his powers for good. Him purposely wearing glasses. They point out specifically to help it be more of like disguising himself. We see the good folks that raise him. We see everything that happened on Krypton that we need to know. We don't need to know anything more about Krypton. We don't need a 45-minute thing with Russell Crowe.
Fuck no.
I mean, everything was just, to me, this is just a perfect origin story. At the end of this, I was like, man, I want to watch more of this. And if it hadn't been for the second episode description being Jimmy Olsen fights smugglers at his aunt's house, I probably would have gone ahead and got the second one. But as far as an origin story, this was, to me, fantastic. Supes was more than on. He was really on.
Well, stay tuned for our next episode where Jimmy fights smugglers at his aunt's house. Fucking Jimmy, dark-haired Jimmy.
Yes. So we are, as always, you can always stay tuned because we will have our wrap,
our diss track,
that'll be coming up. You can always email us at soupsonpodcast@gmail.com. Next week, we're planning on reviewing the first episode of the 90s animated series. If you have anything you'd like to contribute, feel free to email us.
And always submit whatever episode's feedback. If you think we're great, if you think we suck dick, just let us know.
If you think we suck, just go to John McBride's Facebook page and let him know.
We accept all fan art, too.
We do. We accept fan art. We actually had a very nice drawing sent in recently. By John McBride.
Yes, I decided I'm a fan of the show. So yeah, check us out and just let us know anything, any type of particular Superman thing you want us to review.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea
for sure.
And hey, the more obscure, I don't care if it's obscure. The more obscure, the better.
Yes, I know. We will. Don't worry. We will one day be getting to Action Comics number 318. Don't know what that is, but it's out there.
We'll probably get to an Elseworlds where it's purposely different.
Yes.
Or some comic. It doesn't matter if it's, print, radio, or video. If you want us to review a porn parody, we'll do that.
We've seen them all.
We've seen them all already. I've already written extensive notes on every Superman porn parody known to man.
Just in case. It was research.
It was research. That's right.
All right. Well, enjoy the diss track, everybody. Thank you.
Minding my own business, sipping Lipton. Rocket crash from the planet Krypton. Eben and Sarah are the Rents. Raised little Clark as one of the Kents. Can I just take a moment to say Teenage Clark's leather jacket was dope as fuck? Man hanging from a dirigible. It's terrible. Unbearable. Perry White irritable. Superman saved the dummy and the day, while nerdy Clark can't get no play.
See K on the 28th floor for a job, but he can't get past the door. Goes out the window, comes in the window, had to use the window, couldn't get past the bimbo. Ask Perry White, what if the guy doesn't die? Job's on the line, now he flies. But what if there was no employment? What if he faced the line of unemployment? Would Supes still have flown? Of course he would. Steel backbone.